and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and this week I'm joined by my co-host Amanda as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from Ahsoka, Part 7, Dreams and Madness. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. I'm back. I was gone for a week. I missed it. I missed everything. Thankfully, I watched Ahsoka. I haven't even listened to the episode yet. I am the worst fan of my own
Not
show.
only that, but the episode is not even out yet.
It's like I have not done my job. But by the time this episode is out, that episode will be out. So people will be like, whoa, they did 2 in one night. I'll be like, I'm back. They're like,
Yeah.
From what? Grabbing a snack?
Yeah.
Like, no, we didn't put an episode out last week, but
actually we had some really great engagement and
Yes, I saw
listenership,
it.
and we were actually had someone else here in your place.
I saw that too. Brian was back.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I thought he was a great replacement for you.
Wow.
It
Finally.
was like 101 episodes. Time for a change.
I can finally take the Christian walk and just sail
No,
into the
don't
west.
do it.
My spirit is descending. I depart to the west. Well, he's so good that I think I want to make an announcement.
I mean, I kind of did last week.
You made what did you tell the audience?
Did you not listen to that?
I haven't even edited it yet. We just established this. What's
Yeah.
okay? So the audience knows this guy's gonna like host with us.
I mean, I kind of soft launched him. I was like,
You soft launched him into this community that is the Duel of the Ranks
Yeah.
fandom.
I thought he fit well. He had some great insights when we first had him on, and you know, it's nice to have someone other than you to talk to.
We sound way too much like an old married couple.
Yeah.
Like this is like it's nice to have more people than you to talk to. Well, I feel that. I listen to my own podcasts and I'm like, you really could cut the content down, Brody. Well, all right. Well, then the world knows. Let's bring out our newest co-host of the show, Brian.
Well, hey, howdy, hey. Did you say co-host?
I said the word co-host.
Oh,
That's
no
it.
one told me that, but I mean, I'll roll with it.
He's like,
I'm
I
with
agreed to guest host this one episode, and this became no, you can't now. This
Now
you're
I'm
locked
just
in.
peer pressured in front of the whole audience.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
you can't turn it down. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you just look like an ass. So
We can't have that. No.
No,
no, we're happy to have you, Brian. Thanks again for
Um,
joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just happy to finally have an outlet to stop wearing down my parents and my friends about Star Wars, the ones who don't even watch it are tired of hearing about it. So it's nice to have an audience.
an audience, even if it's just us, Brian, we'll listen. We'll always listen.
It
And
is
so,
just us, right? Just
Yeah. It's only us. We're not live. There's nobody else. Just ignore the numbers. and
KG
the
might
tickers.
join in
good,
a little bit.
good.
Yeah, she's always here, but she is watching this because it's not animated, so that's something.
Right.
And if she's not watching live, she'll jump right afterwards. But yeah, and there's always and if you look at the listenership for the podcast side of things, did you know we're a top 3% podcast now globally?
3%?
3%. I was dumbfounded too.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a ride. It has been a ride. And you know, some of those folks, like, listen, in Germany, there's this one person, I'm not going to say the city, but we know you're listening. We know what city you're in. And like, hey, you're a real one. Ben, from the jump.
And we've tried so many times to call them out in the podcast for them to also reach out to us and be like, hey,
You send
we
us.
see you.
Yeah. You know, you send us anything. We'll
yeah.
send you like a shirt,
Yeah.
maybe a boat.
Yeah.
We don't have a boat.
Oh man, that's international shipping though.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's okay. Because
Okay.
it's, we'll make it work. We'll make it work for you, Germany. We'll make it work. We'll
We're
get you
here for
some
everyone.
swag. We'll get you some swag. But okay, now we've established that. No more talking about this. No more personal stuff. We need to go into the content. Ahsoka, episode 7.
The penultimate.
Yeah, I took a week off. I'm
Penultimate.
fired up. Let's talk it.
Okay, let's get into it.
What
Part
happened?
7, called Dreams and Madness. Hera faces a panel of senators on Coruscant for her actions on Satos, and none of the senators are taking the threat of Thrawn's return seriously. C-3PO arrives with an urgent message from Senator Organa, who claims she approved Hera's mission. Meanwhile, Hu Yang and Ahsoka arrive at Peridia and are welcomed with an Imperial minefield meant to harm the Purgles transporting them. The two of them manage to evade Thrawn's fighters and hide out in the Purgle boneyard outside of the atmosphere. Ahsoka uses the Force to connect and locate Sabine. While traveling with the Noti, Ezra and Sabine are attacked by scavengers and are found by Baylan and Shin. Baylan tells Shin that this is where their paths separate. Ahsoka drops in to help Sabine and Ezra fight off the scavengers and night troopers before Thrawn calls back his troops ready to finally leave this planet.
Ooh.
I am too.
Yeah, you're ready to get out of here?
I think they hit every note that they could have hit in the last episode, and I'm ready to see some crazy stuff go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I felt like this was kind of, again, that a dip in the experience for me.
Really?
In the story, it felt like it was just a little bit more like they have been pushing the story forward and now it's just kind of sliding on ice. If that's just off the top of my head how I'm describing it. But I feel like specifically when it comes to me ranking these episodes, that the story and the characters really kind of took a hit this episode. It was so jarring for me to see Baylan and Shin kind of go their separate ways. It felt like it was kind of out of nowhere.
It felt that way for her too.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did.
She's like,
yeah,
"What you
she's
doing?"
like, are you sure? But like, because
Bye,
one of
Felicia.
the
Not that I
most
can't handle it, but
one of the most interesting like characters, or both of them have been truly like the most engaging characters this whole series. And now it's like they're kind of throwing in a curveball right at the end. And I mean, Shin was listening to everything Baylan would tell her to do. And now all of a sudden she's just like on her own.
You know, but where the story lacked in story and where the characters lacked in character development, we certainly got more great immersive universe. You got C-3PO. And let's just talk for a second about that training sequence Ahsoka had with holographic
Clone Wars
Anakin Skywalker, Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker. Just how beautiful was that?
it's a nice
That was
little
a-
treat.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
great way to include his character back in. It felt like it was present day Anakin, the way that he kind of like talked to her and like seemed like he was looking at her. But it makes sense because it feels like a direct cut from that Clone Wars episode where all of the troopers are around her and shooting the stun rays. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right,
It
training.
felt like exactly taken from that moment.
Yes. Again.
The body
Yeah.
language and the camera angles even.
Yeah. No, I loved that. And in any moment you get Anakin Skywalker back in that. And like they're just what I love is they're milking it. They're milking it. And like he really feels somewhat back. And my favorite part though wasn't even that. I love when Thrawn's like, oh, she was a Jedi. Who was her master? And they're like, oh, Anakin Skywalker. And his face is
He's
like,
like,
holy hell. Like, we got to take this seriously. Back everyone up. This is like, you do not know what you're messing with. Like,
yeah.
I loved that because he knew who Anakin turned into. And he's like, okay, no, like this is a serious threat.
Yeah.
Let's have everyone pull off this and like be one step ahead of her. And we know we can't beat her. So let's just send her a different direction
Mm-hmm.
so we can do what we need to do. I loved that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
probably targeted her noticeable compassion, that Anakin would also let, seep through into his decisions. I'm sure he's predicting that and, expecting her to be kind of the same rebellious spirit. And I love that parallel. You can see the whole story kind of play out how we think it is, how he would have taken on Anakin or Darth Vader. And he is that kind of tactical genius that can. So that's what I'm most looking forward to. It was really cool seeing him use every tool that he has available, like the Night Sister magic on top of like the map. So he uses technology and magic together to like try angulate their position and fire on that position. That was cool stuff.
That was cool. That really started to show like the power of the magic that the Night Sisters have, and clearly the relationship that Thrawn has built with them is going to be leveraged in a way that no one else can really counter.
Yeah. And I did think it was funny, like everyone on YouTube last week was saying, like, oh, those are all zombies, or like the Walking Dead stormtroopers, or whatever, ghosts. And like we saw them, like
They
even,
died,
yeah,
like
they
regular.
died. They just died. Even my wife, who's not a Star Wars fan, she's like, oh, I don't know
They're-
why I was
they're-
expecting
they're
them to be
just
something
dead.
else. Didn't even like follow Star Wars and like thought like, oh yeah. I feel like they were building them up to be something different. I'm like, yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, and
They
then
still have the funky voices, though. I will say, you know, kind of like the zombie inquisitor or the smoke inquisitor did. So I don't know. Maybe some of them are alive, some of them are dead-ish.
That is.
Could be a mix of both, and they're just kind of saving the zombie part for.
Listen,
for
it's
the next
very
episode.
simple. Someone just needs to go in and play Thriller, and if that rhythm is there, you know they're zombies. You know they're not right. Can you imagine Thrawn?
no.
Ahsoka just leads in, and he just goes into a Michael Jackson. Cause I'm bad, and just breaks out in Thriller. I would love that. That's what I want to see for this next
Yeah, I would love to
That's
see a
a
YouTube
finale.
Oh
No
my
one
God.
would see it coming, not even me, and I predicted it. Well, what else? What else happened? Oh yeah, Ezra, when he fought, saying like, "No, I have the Force. That's my ally," and you're like, "Oh, okay," and then he fights with the Force, and you're like, "Oh no, he's like legit,"
Yeah.
and like he stopped her lightsaber, and it reminded me of Kylo Ren. You just see that vibrating. Remember in the Force?
Oh, yeah,
Awakens,
when he,
stops
like,
that
stops
cannon?
it.
It's like,
I
Amazing.
loved that. That was so cool. Yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely got Last Jedi vibes when Sabine was like, "Here, take it," and like, no, and Luke is just like that's
Yeah.
kind of what Ezra was like. I don't need that silly little thing.
Yeah, like he's like a legit Jedi now. Like he's not leaning on the crutch of a lightsaber. He's like, no, I'm
one with the Force.
and he's got
for
the wisdom
sure.
of leadership now. He's taught the turtle tribe to rise up and rebel against the Marauders,
Okay.
and he's equipped them with slingshots.
Yes.
Okay, the Noti were super cute in that I love that scene because it feels very authentic to Star Wars and very authentic to Rebels too, that Western style chase scene. And it was really adorable that the Noti are a peaceful people. So they were just like using slingshots and like throwing junk at them. I think it's great to see just different alignments in the universe.
Yeah, I was getting during that like very Lord of the Rings vibes when they're basically riding those warg-ish things, whatever they are, and they're on this like hilltop watching them. I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm looking at like Rohan.
Oh yeah,
It was filmed in New Zealand. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I gave the technical aspects a pretty high score. Let's see, 8.7. And I had seen some comments from people that they didn't like the coloration because it got a little gray and cloudy.
It's really dark. Yeah.
I really liked it.
That.
It took me to an Anne Leibovitz like photo shoot, if you know who that is. She does a lot of if you think of the Entertainment Weekly like special series that they always do for a Star Wars show, Annie Leibovitz is usually like the famous photographer that does them, and they're very moody and cinematic, and that's exactly what I felt in that scene.
Yeah, I could see that.
But also like in that scene, we see Baylan and Ahsoka kind of go at each other again, and it's kind of like, but why?
And I want to know too, like what's going on that planet that Baylan's like, it's calling. Don't you feel it?
It's the beginning. Yeah. There's been an awakening.
Yeah. Have you felt it? Yeah. There's something there, and a lot of folks
very vague, ambiguous awakening.
Yeah, and everyone's like alluding to the fact that I'm like, oh, it has to be Palpatine, and I'm like, what if it's like a dog?
What if it's like a volcano?
Yeah, what if it's just something that's like his inner peace? He's like, this is what I've always wanted. I'm just saying, like, let's. I've learned with Star Wars to not overthink anything. Just
it's fun though.
Yeah, I mean, could it be Palpatine and him wanting to rebuild the next? I mean, it certainly seems like that's the direction it's going.
I can see that, yeah.
He wants to be a part of the next order.
Well, actually, I felt like this episode really starts to set up the vision for the Dave Filoni film, because when we are on Coruscant in that like Senate meeting, Carson Teva is like, what about what happened on Mandalore? and they bring up Moff Gideon, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you're definitely like making a very strong connection between all of these elements, like right here. And it seems like, I mean, is Ahsoka gonna get a season 2? Maybe, but it also could seem like, yeah, they're making Thrawn's return the film.
Yeah, I totally think that's accurate. And I mean,
I'm down.
yeah, and I think you're going to see Thrawn. He's going to fail, but it's going to give rise to. I mean, I think that's what's going to get so many folks interested in the First Order, because obviously they're already doing stuff on the outside, but this is going to showcase how weak the New Republic is.
Yeah.
And I think so many folks who have a problem with it are going to go off and secretly support this First Order, because obviously you don't have a Death Star planet without funding.
Yeah.
Someone's going in and financing this whole venture. And I don't care how strong Palpatine is in the Force. You need some economist back there. Like, this is a business operation at the end of the day, not just some sinister old man willing it with the Force. So
yeah, let's go to Canto Bight. See some more.
It's more
economic intrigue.
Deals.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, some sketchy behind the scenes kind of commentary.
I would much rather never go back to Canto Bight. that one movie
love Canto Bight.
Was enough for me.
Canto Bight's fine.
But like this episode also really set up the politics of what feels like a heavier film, you know, with the infighting and the, well, I was just ignoring your order or all that kind of stuff. Like, you know.
Yeah, it's a good balance, I think. It's not too much politics, but just enough to kind of give it that undertone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although I would have liked to see Hera face some consequences, but Leia Organa made sure to put an end to it, which I was wondering if they were going to try to bring in Billy Lord as they did for Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But it looks like she's just going to remain an off-screen presence.
Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like Hera is such an insignificant character in this show that boy, she is bland for me. And anytime her storyline is on screen, I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not interested. And that's sad, because I think Hera's a great character in Rebels. And maybe, look, I don't know if it's the acting. I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know what it is. And maybe it's just like how she's set up. Personally, I think it has a lot more to do with like the purpose of the character and how it all feels inconsequential. And even that room where she's on Coruscant, that whole thing felt so stale. Now, anytime the actress who plays Mon Mothma, I'm forgetting her name, but boy, anytime she's
Genevieve
on screen,
O'Reilly.
Yeah, she just carries it. She's fantastic. And so she can help create drama when there isn't any, and like a dramatic tone. But like at the very end, she's like, is this something we should be concerned about? And it goes back, and I feel like I'm watching, like, I see her and I'm like, oh, this is like Oscar worthy. And then I see Hera and I'm like, this is the CW.
That's so accurate. Yeah, because like Mon Mothma's face, like Genevieve O'Reilly is able to portray so much like concern and worry, and like you can see the stakes on her face.
Yeah.
And then Hera's just like, yeah, you know, like her blue eyes.
Sassy. She's sassy like Hera is, but I also have a personal vendetta against Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Why?
She stole my husband.
Me too.
What? Who's your husband?
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Oh,
they're married.
Wow.
She's married to the owner.
Cop nepotism. No.
She married a good actor. And
she's a good actress.
Incredible actor.
Is she?
She's not bad.
Have you seen Fargo?
I've not seen Fargo.
Fargo's great. Shout out to Fargo. She was also in Fargo. No, it's the series on Hulu, based off of like the Coen brothers film loosely. So it's really good. And then she was also Ramona Flowers in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Great.
Yeah.
She can hang, but I just think that man, it hurts to give criticism to Dave Filoni, but I think that the show so far has really lacked in us emotionally caring for specifically the title character. Like even with this, like
Yeah, that's an
this is
issue.
our first time seeing Ahsoka post her like death and rebirth, and it doesn't feel like her character has gone through much of a change.
She's
Dude.
happier. She's
It was great to
laughing,
see her
Smiles.
smile. Yeah.
but like, yeah, it's still
Yeah,
kind of unclear.
Oh, it is insane how, like, in my mind, and honestly, I don't know what it is here either. It could be the writing, it could be Rosario Dawson, which I think Rosario Dawson is doing just about as good as you can do in that role. So I'm not trying to pick on her, but boy, as you mentioned, it is just stale. I mean, this character, this journey, and I still go back to the whole Anakin thing where she's on that planet and whatever. She goes to the world between worlds, and it's supposed to be this Mufasa-esque moment. And her character in it, it just feels like, I don't want to say forced, but like when you had the moment with like Rafiki, right, leading up to that moment, there was this big buildup, right? Simba was walking this one line, and you had the guide come back in, point the error of the ways of the hero in that moment, and say, "You're off track. We need to get you back on track." We didn't have that with Ahsoka really this season.
Mhm.
You had that with that droid. We didn't even know. I'm like, do you need this moment with Anakin? Why is he here? Okay, like just from a story perspective, it doesn't make sense.
It hasn't paid off yet, unless it's going for like a long payoff at the end where like
Right.
Ahsoka is going to be faced with, I don't know, Thrawn, and then she can like is she going to remember what she learned in there and like have a change of heart in some degree? But I don't know. It doesn't feel
This show to me
stakes
feels
are high
like
enough.
it's so focused on the immersive universe that it forgot the basic construct. I mean, basic construct
How do you
of telling
structure
a
an
story.
episode? Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the biggest thing is lacking where, The Mandalorian had so much momentum because every episode was a very self-contained,
Mhm.
villain of the week kind of thing going on. And yeah, there's like almost a duel every week or so. And those are great. And I love seeing the progression of those
Yeah.
duels. That is kind of making it feel kind of pop culture, samurai film kind of Saturday Western adventure, like Star Wars is supposed to be, but without having like a self-contained story every episode. It like every story beat that they hit is just something that had to happen and that we've
Mhm.
Oh,
seen coming from a mile
yeah.
away.
And this 100% should have, like many of these other shows, they need to stop being shows. They need to be movies because you're doing a poor job effectively, for the most part, outside of Andor, telling a cohesive story. Because when it's, 7, 8 episodes and each one's 30 minutes long, why don't you cut it down to a 2.5 hour movie, get rid of a lot of the other stuff, and make it more impactful and really pack that in?
I was thinking about that too. And even going back to the first episode, I was like, yes, I think that this could be a better movie, but even then they would have to create more ethos like with the characters themselves. You would have to go back and see more of the connection between Ahsoka and Sabine to feel that connection. Even with Hera, like we need to see more of their like relationship, and we're just not.
Oh
It's
man,
just like not there.
I tell you what you do. You get rid of anything involving Hera for the most part. Make her a nice Easter egg that comes in later on. You do, and I do enjoy stuff with Sabine, and I enjoyed Ezra this episode. My biggest thing, and I'm enjoying the show overall, so I don't want to be too critical, but I think there's a lot where, yes, in the beginning, I don't think you even really need to dive too deep into the Ahsoka Sabine relationship. You understand there's something there, maybe a quick flashback at most. And then, really, like I said, the stuff with Anakin, I want to see early on that there's unrest within Ahsoka.
Yes.
She was so stale that we're like, oh, this is a moment she needed. I didn't know she was off her course. And now she's like, no, I'm Ahsoka the White. I'm like, oh, like,
You're just
I guess we're on a new path now.
They're playing it off as an acting choice, just like Hayden Christensen being stale in episode 2 is an acting choice, supposedly. I mean, not saying he's a bad actor, but like, I'm not gonna pretend he's amazing.
I'm not even gonna say it's an acting choice. I think it's a direction choice.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
It's at least half,
I will say
the
though that like I have gotten more used to Rosario Dawson's performance. Like when she is in the fighter jet, like trying to evade all of the attacks in the minefield. It was kind of a nice parallel to Anakin Skywalker being the sky guy that he is. And I felt like she scrunched her face a little bit so I could tell that she was focusing. And when she does see Ezra and embraces him, like, I really do, I gotta say, the headpiece is a 10 out of 10 for me. It really has like come a long way from where it was, and that really makes it for me. I also love her costume. Actually, I've talked about this with other people. Like, all of the costumes are amazing, but the contacts, the makeup is just a little off, but the costumes are 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it looks fantastic. The choreography with the lightsaber action is fantastic this season. The immersive universe is fantastic. The music is fantastic.
Music is insane.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. We're just talking the story and characters, and it's really, really unfortunate, because if this were just structured a little bit better, I think you would have, I think this would beat Andor. I really do.
I know.
I really do. And that's what's so unfortunate, is like, I'm enjoying it, but now I'm feeling like you've kind of cheapened it to like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a more like paint by numbers story, whereas like you didn't have to do anything crazy, but let's focus on the main character and show, like, especially if there's some form of struggle there, highlight that.
Just make it engaging at least, some kind of conflict.
The audience has never once this season sat in her shoes and said, "Dang, man, I can emotionally relate to her."
The closest I got to that was in the flashback moments with young Ahsoka, because I was able to finally feel like she's young. Like, you feel that in that moment.
Yeah, dude. All I know is Boba Fett was like bland in his own show. Mando is bland in his own show for the most part. And we always say, well, it's because he has the helmet on. Nope. Now we just know, if you're a main character, sorry, you're a scrub.
I know, except Andor.
Andor was the
first
time.
Perfect show.
Can we just stop naming TV shows after a singular character?
Thank you. Thank you.
And then it upsets everybody when it's like, oh, this is Ahsoka's show, but then she was only in like 5 minutes of this, or it puts too much pressure really on the one character. And if it's really not an entire character study and a story like around that character, then you're kind of setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
Well, your take of calling the Mandalorian show The Mandalorian, but also every season featuring
a different Mandalorian,
that's been catching some fire. And I've been on like different like community things, and stuff's come up, and people have cited that take of yours. And I'm like, hey, if this keeps growing, this like might actually catch like Lucasfilm's ear. So like, I'm like, let's just keep that going. I mean, we're a little behind on that by now, but they could change it. They could pivot. Look, and at the end of the day, just like, got to be very clear. We're happy they're making content.
Yes.
We're enjoying all of this. I would rather have this than not have anything. It basically feels like there's a few very easy missed layups that are integral to telling a good story, which are telling a good story.
I am really excited about a lot of the story elements, though, like the Night Sisters, Thrawn being back, traveling back to like across galaxies is super interesting. Even Ahsoka coming through the world between worlds, whatever Balin is out searching for, all of those nuggets are like really intriguing to me. And I'm so excited to see kind of where it ends up, because I really don't know. Is it going to end with like, how is the Chimera supposed to fit in the little, the
hyperspace
thing? Yeah. Like, how is it going to get out of there?
Yeah. I don't know.
They gotta just park next to it and unload all the bodies again.
Oh my gosh.
The next, entire episode is just them moving the bodies from one ship to the other. Then
they're like,
they might go back to the galaxy.
Yeah, that's actually the finale.
Oh my gosh.
Shipping and logistics.
Well, and this episode particularly ended on like a very like chipper high note, which also felt very Rebels. Like, where it's like, we're all back together and I'm finally going to get off this planet. But it feels like very much foreshadowing on maybe they are going to get stuck out there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I hope not.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. I can't really say.
Ezra's like, you guys really suck at saving people.
Yeah.
He's like,
Some
at least
rescue.
he's like, it's okay. We'll all be turtle people now.
I'd be down to be a turtle person.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Ezra. All right, with that, do we have anything else to say before we move into the hot take segment?
Oh, just that I've to touch on like the filmmaking, the technical aspects of it, like just the ship models themselves. I don't know if y'all saw the official Star Wars YouTube channel put out like behind the scenes of it, and they're practical models with some pretty complex like movement and different mechanics going on. So I was watching this episode kind of with that lens of knowing that Ahsoka's flying around in a practical model, and it just looked incredible. So that's finally understood why the ship combat looks amazing. It's because it's a lot of practical effects.
That's awesome.
But it's come a long way too. It's
wow.
That is probably the highlight of the show for me so far.
Awesome.
I also have called out. I think it was in this episode when those like 2 transport vehicles stop in that field. How it's like very zombified. Like it's very what scraps do we have laying around together, and parts from this ship and parts from that ship. I like that kind of lore behind it all. And then I don't know what is it called, the Eye of Sauron?
Sauron.
Scion, yeah. I love in a previous episode, we have like the classic like closing of like the radial doors in Star Wars, but this one it's like fancier, and it's like it like rolls through. And I love that. It felt fancy and cool and like an upgrade,
Huge upgrade.
Yeah.
Mega upgrade.
There are a lot of things we like,
Yeah,
but we kind of just talk about the things that we don't like.
Well, story's kind of the fundamental thing that everything else
and
is
characters.
Everything else kind of becomes like sugar, icing, cake.
Yeah.
I would say music's really important in there as well. But you can tell, like, again, I'm going back to this TV show, The Bear. There's not really a lot of practical effects, no CGI, and it's amazing. Why? Because the story itself is fantastic,
and the characters
sell it. If you don't have those two things, you are not going to be a world-renowned TV show. I mean, you might be able to win some Emmys on some really cool things, but if you don't have that, it hurts. Now, some shows, like I am rewatching Rings of Power right now, and I will say, when you're watching it like an episode a day kind of thing, it's significantly better because there's so many details and things they throw in there that when you're able to just watch it through, it's a lot more enjoyable. And I know Obi-Wan is kind of the same way. I don't feel that way about Mandalorian or a lot of these other shows.
I have not gone back to rewatch Andor yet. I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
But I imagine it gets even better when you can just watch it all the way through. But that was one where I was like, truly each episode felt like it had a start and an end, but like a through story overall. Man,
I'm just gonna leave up KG's comment that Amanda is easily amused by doors. You have no idea. Every week she comes here, she just
like
fascinating.
I catch her in the front yard giggling.
I'm just like opening it and closing it.